Yesterday, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver made it clear the league is ready to change the NBA's age limit from 19, where it has been since the 2006 draft, back to 18 and allow high schoolers to jump straight to the NBA. Now, that rule still needs to be collectively bargained with the Players Union, but Michelle Roberts also came out yesterday, said they're ready to go. So, yes, people, this is happening. And I do want to welcome in Paul Pierce. Look, you're sitting here, you're watching these kids in Summer League right now. You chose to attend Kansas out of high school. You were there for 3 years, Paul, before you entered the draft at age 20. I want to get your take. How do you feel about the age limit going back down to 18? And I'm also curious how you think the NBA can better support these high school kids who do come straight into the league so they can be a little more well-rounded like you were.
Well, it's hard to really prepare yourself to be in the NBA unless you've actually gone through it, especially when you're a kid out of high school. But I will say this, kids are more prepared for the NBA and much more mature than when I was coming out. You know, most of these high schoolers are 18 and 19. I was a young high schooler. I was 17 when I graduated. You know, they have these AAU programs. They travel around the world. They play different cities, airports, airplanes, so they get a little taste of what NBA life is all about. And besides the NBA, we're the only league in the world that doesn't allow you to go straight to be a professional out of high school. You know, you look at soccer, you look at tennis. If you're ready to go, then you're ready, no matter how old you are.
Where are you on this, Royce?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that because so much of this, Rachel, is just kind of about the personal responsibility of the player. And it's a difficult thing, but, you know, it is what Dwight Howard said is very enlightening, and it is very real in terms of it's not easy to just walk in. I think a lot of people have this mindset of like, what's the big deal? You show up in the NBA, you start cashing checks, you start playing basketball, you should have it all figured out. But it is about who the people you're going to put around you. It's about your business manager, how you manage yourself, how you manage your time. And it's going to be a complicated situation for the NBA, but Paul is exactly right. You have to just kind of put it on the player and the person. We allow this in every other sports league. You would allow this in everyday human life. You can go to college, you can not go to college. But it's at the end of the day, it's up to the player and it's up to the person to handle their business.
I agree with that, and I'm not a fan, as everyone knows, of the way the NCAA rules are in that system, and I don't think players should have to go through that and the eligibility requirements on all of that stuff. So this is not a cry for going back to college basketball the way it was. I do have concern, though, for these kids as they come into the league. And by the way, what it does to the league, too, I'm always a little surprised that the Players Association is so gung-ho to have this younger crop of kids in the league, since it will take a little bit away from the veterans who they represent. And I always wonder, is there a middle ground? The NBA has talked about building up the G League. I would love to see that, more of a minor league baseball style system where, yes, if there is a transcendent player, if there's a Kevin Garnett or LeBron James, someone who clearly is NBA ready when they walk through the door, they can go to their NBA team. But for most of the kids coming out of high school, I would love to see them more in that G League, minor league situation where the pressures of being an adult and a kid in an adult world are maybe half as much, right? And the money is significant. Maybe you give these kids in the G League $500,000 when they start. That's a big deal. I would have liked a $500,000 salary when I was 18. But it's not the many, many millions of dollars that can maybe undo you. So I am curious, you know, we heard Dwight off the top of the show there. I'm very curious to see if with this change comes along more support for these players. There's a lot of changes that they talked about, guys, in that Adam Silver press conference yesterday. One thing was competitive balance came up a lot because we've had 4 consecutive finals, as you both know. LeBron James and the Cavaliers versus the Warriors. We know that's not going to happen this next year. And both Adam Silver and Michelle Roberts in her press conference says they don't see a competitive balance problem. Silver says he loves where the league is right now. He did say that the NBA could have a better system. He hinted at a hard salary cap. Michelle Roberts definitely is not going in that direction. Players do not want a hard salary cap. She says competitive balance almost depends on who your favorite team is. Paul, do you think there has to be a shift in the system at all to create more parity, or do you okay with the Warriors kind of doing what they're doing right now?
Not at all. I mean, every generation, every decade, you have teams like the Warriors. You know, obviously in the early 2000s, it was the Lakers. You had the Spurs, who had a dynasty. In the 90s, it was the Bulls. In the 80s, it was the Celtics and the Lakers. We're just coming across that era. It's the Golden State Warriors era. And if you look back, it could have easily been a Boston Celtics, Houston Rockets finals this year, both games with the Game 7. Then what will people be saying then? So, you know, you got to enjoy greatness. Enjoy it because it doesn't come around too often when you have a team that's so successful as the Golden State Warriors. They're a special group. And like I said, every decade you have these types of groups that come along. How long will they run last? I don't know. But every decade has one of these types of teams.
Of course the NBA has a parity problem, Rachel. It's been this way, like Paul said, it's been this way for a long time, and there's really no way to fix it because you can take one singular player and he can take an NBA, he can take a team to the NBA Finals for basically a decade, which is what LeBron James did. In basketball, this is a 5-man game, and when one player can have that kind of singular effect on the floor in terms of greatness, it's going to create a parity issue. Now, there are measures you could take to try to kind of balance and counterbalance some of those issues. You know, one of them being that something the league would never do is just eliminate max salaries. If somebody wanted to go out there and pay LeBron James basically every penny they had just to have him and build a team around with nobodies, then that might kind of soften some of this. But until that sort of thing happens, the NBA is always going to have a parity issue because this isn't football. This isn't baseball. This isn't about 9 and 11 people on the field at one time. This is 5 people. And when one player can have that kind of dramatic impact, there's really just nothing you can do about it other than just ask players to politely not be as great as they are.